Hi, everybody. I'm Howard David. Time to take a bite of the Big Apple with Brian Costello of the New York Post, who covers the New York Jets. Most national writers that I talk to, John Clayton among them, thinks that the Jets will be better, but not much. And I mentioned 6 wins, and he said he was doubtful, but he also said that they may be better. The record may not show it. If they get to 6 wins, is that enough to get the Jet fan base excited?
That's a good question, Howard. I think it's how it looks. I mean, if they win 6 games, but the 11 losses are by 30 points, maybe they're not excited. But if they can play close games, and Zach Wilson looks like the real deal, and looks like they've finally got a quarterback, I think Jets fans will be excited. Then I think I'm in the 5-win ballpark thinking with this team. So 6 wins, I'm right there with you. Look, they only won 2 last year, so any improvement, 3 wins is improvement. It doesn't take much to improve this team. But to me, it's how it looks, Howard. Like, this team was not competitive last year for the most part. 2 years ago, their losses were really ugly. It's been a while since the arrow's been pointing in the right direction, I guess is the way I would put it.
You look at Zach Wilson, and he's the hope for the future, obviously. And rookie quarterbacks, with rare exception, don't make a dramatic impact. Zach Wilson is one of these guys that loves to be in the film room. He watches film constantly. I think that's a big positive. And the question I have is, did Joe Douglas do as much as he could do in the offseason by way of free agency and the draft to surround Zach Wilson with more weapons than Sam Darnold had?
Yeah, I think he did, Howard. I think if you look at it in free agency, signing Corey Davis, 3 years, $37 million, I thought that was a good deal. He didn't break the bank. It's not going to be a contract that's an albatross for the organization. If it doesn't work out, he can get out of it in 2 years. And Davis had a really good year in Tennessee last year. He hasn't lived up to his billing as the number 5 draft pick in 2017, but he came on last year. The Jets' offense that they're running under Mike LaFleur is very similar to what the Titans did under Arthur Smith. It's all kind of under the Shanahan tree. So, if you look at the draft, next 3 picks are all offense. Howard, he gets another lineman, Elijah Vera-Tucker. So now they have Vera-Tucker and Mekhi Becton on the left side of that line, which they hope is the new, Nick Mangold, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, a tandem that could play for 10 years together. Then he got pretty impressive in the spring. I think he's going to have an immediate impact for this team. And then running back Michael Carter with the first pick in the 4th round. So if you're looking at it, if you're Jeff Ulbrich, you're the defensive coordinator, the first 4 picks were all offense. So I think Joe Douglas went all out to surround his rookie quarterback with not only weapons but also a lineman. And then he signs Morgan Moses a few weeks ago to solidify right tackle. So I do think the scars that the organization has from Sam Darnold, from not surrounding Sam Darnold with talent, is going to help Zach Wilson, because I think those scars are fresh. And it's in the back of the Jets' minds right now. Like, we've got to build around this guy quickly.
You mentioned Michael Carter, and the Jets have more than one. But Michael Carter, the running back, is he part of running back by committee, or do you look at something more single back, and then the traditional backup and so on? Or is this going to be running back by committee?
I think it will to start, Howard, for sure. I think if you look at Tevin Coleman, he probably has the advantage going into the season. He knows the system. They know him. He was in San Francisco with these coaches. He also was in Atlanta when LaFleur was there. So, I think he kind of comes into training camp with a little bit of a leg up. Carter was very impressive in the spring. He's explosive. He kind of brings a different type of athleticism to the position than the other guys that they have. So I think he'll have a good shot. And then Michael Pirine, they drafted last year in the 4th round. He showed some flashes as a rookie, and he dealt with injuries. So we'll see where he is. I think they view him more as kind of a short yardage guy right now. But I think if you look around the league, Howard, there aren't many bell cow running backs anymore. Derrick Henry is one.
Yeah.
There aren't a whole lot of other ones. Almost everybody does running back by committee, and I think if you look at San Francisco, almost everything now, Howard, with the Jets, you look at through the lens of San Francisco, right? What they did there, they had all these guys. Raheem Mostert kind of emerged as the guy, but he was someone they took off the scrap heap. So I think if someone emerges and starts really having a strong start to the season, they could become the featured back. But at the beginning of the year, I think it'll be a committee.
At the wide receiver position, you mentioned the acquisitions and free agency. But if there's one wide receiver that's caught the eye of some people, it's Elijah Moore. You saw him, although in t-shirt and shorts, but what do you think?
He was impressive in the spring. He just was around the ball a lot. He was getting open. He's got speed that you can see easily. Like he just stands out on a field of professional athletes. He has elite speed. So, and he looked like he knew what he was doing route running. There wasn't a lot of confusion there. He made some really nice catches. So I think the Jets are very, very excited about him. I'm curious just how they get all these guys on the field at once. It's an interesting change for the Jets. They haven't had many weapons in the past few years, and now, I'm curious how Jamison Crowder and Elijah Moore fit on the field at the same time. How does Denzel Mims, their second-round pick from a year ago, fit in? They signed Keelan Cole, who he had a very good spring. Where does he fit? So it's going to be interesting to see how Mike LaFleur gets all these guys involved.
And the critical tight end position. Chris Herndon has had his share of injuries. They get Tyler Kroft, formerly of the Buffalo Bills. Where do you see that position?
Yeah, that's a big question mark. And, Herndon was not working with the first team a lot in the spring. I think they're kind of – he had a terrible year last year. It's a new staff, and Joe Douglas did not draft him. So I think Herndon's going into camp with something to prove here. Kroft's got a lot of time. I think he could have a big role. They still have Ryan Griffin, who 2 years ago was very good for the Jets when Herndon was injured. Last year, he really was invisible. So I'm not sure what to expect out of the tight end position right now, Howard. And that could be a key spot when you have a rookie quarterback. That's usually someone that they can lean on for some short passes. So they got to figure it out in training camp. I still think Chris Herndon has a lot of talent there. It just hasn't clicked for whatever reason. So maybe the new coaching staff can bring it out of him.
Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. And a gigantic question mark is, where is C.J. Mosley in terms of health? He basically hasn't played in 2 years.
Yeah. Obviously they gave Mosley the huge contract, $85 million, and he's played 2 games. He's made $29 million already of that contract, Howard, and he's played 2 games. So if they can get C.J. Mosley that we saw with the Baltimore Ravens, and we saw in that first game of the 2019 season when he was all over the field against the Buffalo Bills before he got hurt, they got something there. If C.J. Mosley now, who's 29 years old and hasn't played in 2 years, doesn't look like he can play anymore, then that contract gets even worse and looks terrible. So he looked good in the spring. Again, though, it's shorts, no pads. He was moving around. He was around the ball a lot. He made some plays. I think the next step for him is contact. He hasn't hit anyone in 2 years. So we'll see how he comes through training camp, if he can stay healthy. And, he could be huge for the Jets if he's anywhere near his former self.
Brian Costello from the New York Post, who covers the New York Jets, we're taking a bite of the Big Apple. If there is an area of strength, and it seems kind of silly to say the Jets have an area of strength, but if they do, it's up front. The defensive front with Lawson, Rankins, Quinnen Williams, Vinny Curry. This is a defensive line that they hope can put a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, it is, Howard. They've got a good unit there, and with Robert Saleh's system, which is an attacking system with the defensive line, one gap system where they're running upfield, it should help Quinnen Williams blossom a little more. I thought he had a really good year last year, but he can take another step. And Carl Lawson's a guy who, he has tons of quarterback pressures. He doesn't have a lot of sacks. Can he now get to the quarterback and get the sacks? But to me, Howard, the key for that is not the guys they have up front. It's can the secondary cover guys long enough that the quarterback has to take a hitch. He has to wait a second, and then they get the sacks. If the quarterbacks are back there getting the ball out of their hands in 2 seconds because no one can cover anyone. It doesn't matter if they have Lawrence Taylor up front. They're not going to get to the quarterback. So it works hand in hand, and I think the biggest issue on this team right now is cornerback, and can these young guys develop quick enough and help out this defensive line?
Is there a cornerback that you think might be the best of the lot?
Oof, that's a good question. I like Bryce Hall. You know, they drafted out of Virginia last year in the 5th round. He had an injury in Virginia that kind of pushed his draft stock down. You know, he played a lot. The second half of last year did not have a spring or training camp because he was injured. He was recovering from the injury still. So I think he has potential, but I don't know. I really think they should have found somebody, found some veteran to put back there because right now they're just very young and unproven at cornerback.
You talk about a secondary, and the first name that comes up is Marcus May. What's the status? Is he looking for an extension, and are the Jets willing to do it?
Well, it's over now, Howard, because the deadline was July 15th. You know, they used a franchise tag on him, and the NFL rule is once you use the tag, you have till July 15th to agree on a long-term deal, and if that passes without a long-term deal, you have to wait till next year. You have to wait till the offseason. So it's over. He's playing on the tag, $10.6 million this year. You know, I don't think he's going to be happy about it. We haven't talked to him. He didn't talk to us in the spring. You know, so I'm curious to see what he says when training camp opens, whether he's going to, you know, squawk about it a little bit, whether he might say, yeah, you know, my hamstring's a little tight, I'm going to ride the bike for a few weeks. Like, he could show his unhappiness in a few ways with the Jets. I can't imagine he's thrilled right now that they didn't give him a long-term contract. And, you know, for May, it's tough, Howard. He's 28. You know, he's only been in the league for 4 years, but he was older when he was drafted. So now he's going to be 29 when he's looking for a contract. And it gets tougher and tougher for him. And I kind of understand both perspectives. You know, the Jets looked at him and said, he's a good player, not a great player. We're not going to give him major money at safety. But he's also been a great locker room guy, Howard. He's a good culture guy. And I think the Jets could have sent the message that we value that if they gave him a long-term deal, but they couldn't get anything done, couldn't reach it. So now we'll see how it plays out this season.
Let me go back to the linebacking core outside of C.J. Mosley. Where else are we looking for players that can become playmakers?
Well, you know, Jared Davis that they signed from the Lions, and they feel like he could become, you know, he's a first-round pick of the Lions. Last year he barely played, but they feel like a change of scenery will help him. We'll see if they're right about him. They gave him a 1-year contract. Then they drafted 2 guys, Howard, were safeties in college, but they're moving to linebacker with Jamian Sherwood from Auburn and Haslan Nasruddin from Florida State. You know, which those guys were kind of box safeties in college, which now is linebacker in the NFL. And they're looking for us. So we'll see what they can do. And I think that's just that linebacker is going to be positioned to watch in training camp and how it shakes out.
Talking about Brian Costello of the New York Post, who covers the Jets. When you look at a new head coach, comes in. Everybody's excited about the new head coach, particularly this head coach. He comes with a lot of people endorsing him, primarily from the San Francisco organization. So, I mean, Robert Saleh's coming in running. I mean, he's not walking into this situation. He's got a lot of allies with the Jets already.
Yeah, you know, I think it was perfect timing for whoever was going to be the coach because last year was so bad. And the fan base disliked Adam Gase so much that they were just ready for anybody. But then I think the Jets kind of hit the PR home run. I don't know how he's going to be as a coach, but the PR home run with a guy who has a lot of energy. You know, we've seen him jumping around the sideline and yelling, and he has a great look about him. You know, he's a big guy with a bald head. Like he kind of looks like a football coach, and he's energized the organization. He energized the fan base. So, you know, he knows he's been on a honeymoon this whole time, and now it's about to start getting real, and we'll see how he handles it. And he's got a tough challenge because he didn't inherit a good roster, so he's going to have to work some magic here.
You know, and I know you looked at the schedule. I have too, and I used to look at schedules and go, well, this can be a win. This can be going to be too tough. I looked at the schedule, and obviously the opening game is significant because the Jets are going to face Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers on the road. So it's going to be obviously very interesting. The Jets know Sam Darnold. They know his tendencies. From a defensive standpoint, that is a big asset, I think.
Yeah, I did, and usually you can say the flip side, but this is a different defense. So Sam doesn't really know this defense from the Jets' perspective. Like he faced it last year in San Francisco, but I do think they know him, and the front office especially knows him because the coaching staff's all pretty much new. It's going to be a fascinating game. I mean, that's a tough opening game for the Jets in terms of perception, because if Sam Darnold goes out there and has a huge game and beats the Jets, that's going to be the overreactions of all overreactions, Howard, right? I mean, we always overreact to week one. Can you imagine what it's going to be like if Sam Darnold goes out there and plays really well? And Zach Wilson probably isn't going to play well. It's his first NFL game. I think the chances are he's not going to have a good game. So people are going to be going nuts here Monday morning if the Panthers walk all over the Jets and Darnold throws 4 touchdowns and one of them to Robbie Anderson or something like that.
Yeah.
It'll be crazy.
Look, I'm surprised, but because of the storyline, that this game wasn't put in prime time.
Yeah, I thought this was a perfect week 4 Thursday night game, something like that. Yeah, I'm with you. Because they can play anybody week 1 and there's going to be interest. It's week 1. This game would generate interest a little further down the road in the season. But who am I to argue with the NFL schedule makers? They seem to be figuring out ways to draw attention anyway.
Well, it's an unusual schedule for the Jets because usually they play the Patriots at the end of the year on the road. They play the Patriots twice in the first 6 games of the season.
Yeah, they get the Patriots twice, and they don't face the other division opponents till November, December. They have 4 games in November, December with the Bills and the Dolphins. So it is interesting how the division schedule falls. And I think that Patriots game in week 2, the home opener, is going to be crazy. Obviously, Jets fans haven't been in the building in 2 years. If they play well against the Panthers, if they somehow win that game, and Zach Wilson plays well, the anticipation is going to be through the roof for that Patriots game.
And at the end of the year,
remember?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just remember a few years ago, Sam Darnold won week 1 in Detroit, and they came home and played the Dolphins, and there was a ton of anticipation for that game. I think it'll be twice as much against the Patriots.
What about the AFC East? Buffalo is clearly the best team in the division. They went pretty far last year. The anticipation of them coming out of the AFC is real. The competition's severe, obviously, with Kansas City and Baltimore. But the Buffalo Bills are going to be a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think on paper the Bills are head and shoulders above everybody else in the division. But I will say, Howard, I wouldn't be shocked if the Dolphins or Patriots made the playoffs too. Dolphins won 10 games last year. The question mark there is the quarterback. Can Tua Tagovailoa play well for them and do as well as Ryan Fitzpatrick did for them last year? And then the Patriots went out and spent a ton of money in free agency. Cam Newton, second year in the system. They should be a lot better than they were last year when they were 7-9. So, it won't be surprising to me if the AFC East has 3 teams fighting it out for the playoffs at the end of the year, which leaves the Jets in a tough spot because that's 6 pretty tough games that they're going to have.
I'm an anti-Tua, nothing personal. The guy played great in Alabama, but my God, the way that people around him, he always had terrific receivers. He always had excellent running backs, excellent defense, gave him field position and so on. I want to see a lot more from Tua before I say this is an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And obviously, Dolphins went to him last year, then they went back to Fitzpatrick, and when the season was on the line in Vegas, it was Ryan Fitzpatrick who was in the game. So I think that tells you all you need to know about what the coaches thought of him last year.
And as for the Patriots, Cam Newton right now is the number 1 quarterback on the depth chart, but for how long? Look, Mac Jones, they're really high on this guy. So I'll be curious as to see how long Cam Newton holds that number 1 spot.
Yeah, and I think Cam should probably play better than he did last year. Now he has a full off season to work with them, and I think they'll be patient with Mac Jones, but you never know. You never know with Belichick what he's thinking.
No. Anybody who tries to read his mind is going to go crazy. Well, I mean, everybody talks, these days we're getting so close to training camp. Is Aaron Rodgers going to show up in Green Bay? Is he not? I mean, I keep going back and forth with this. I just don't see any way that this guy doesn't show up. But I'm not there. I don't know. And I'm just wondering what kind of a deal is going to make him happy that he comes back before training camp or in the first week.
Yeah, it's funny, Howard. There was a report from ESPN this morning about him turning down the contract extension. That's usually what gets things done, right? Extending. I almost think Aaron Rodgers wants the opposite. I think he wants them to fold. He has 3 years on his contract right now. I think he would love it if they folded those last 2 years into 1 year. Obviously he's gonna make less money overall, but give him a 1 year contract, guarantee the money this year, and then he can move on next year. That feels like where this is headed to me, Howard, because then the Packers can get him in. They can cut the distraction out because this is going to be a huge story all through training camp if he's not there. The Jets went through this years ago with Darrelle Revis. This is going to be way more than that because it's a quarterback. They can cut the distraction, get a season out of him. Hopefully they can go far and then part ways after this year and turn it over to Jordan Love. That feels like where this is going to end up to me right now, Howard.
Well, it doesn't seem like all of his distractions bothering him too much. I've seen him, I don't know how many golf tournaments that he's played in.
But it's not him, Howard. It's going to bother the Packers. He won't be around. The Packers are going to be in front of the media every day starting next week for a month. Matt LaFleur is going to get tired of answering questions about Aaron Rodgers quickly. And the players are going to get tired of answering the questions. So I think for the Packers' sake, they need to figure out how to make him happy, at least in the short term. Like this is not a long-term marriage at this point. It's not going to be. And they sort of pushed it that way when they drafted Jordan Love. Now they have to realize that and figure out how to make it work for the short term and get him in there.
Well, I don't know if it's fair to say that the Packers are in a lose-lose situation. The only way they can win is if he comes back in time for training camp.
Yeah, well, I think the regular season, he's at a point, Howard, where I don't know how much training camp he needs. I think they have a little window here to get things done, but it's funny, the Jets, Howard, have joint practices in Green Bay in the middle of August.
Huh.
So I'm wondering if we'll see Aaron Rodgers by that point when we're out there covering it.
Well, it'll be interesting. Look, Tom Brady comes out the other day and said he had a torn MCL last year and played the season. And I'm going, wait a minute. You had a torn MCL. You played a whole season. You then played in a whole bunch of golf outings during the off season. And now you're finally coming out and telling people this? What does he have to gain by that?
Yeah, I don't know if he told Howard. I think that was somebody leaked that. I'm not sure who leaked it. But I don't know. I mean, it adds to the myth of Tom Brady, right? It adds to the legacy. Like, look at this, what this guy did. He won a Super Bowl with a torn ligament in his knee. I don't know. I don't know what the motivation was there. I'd have to know who the source was for sure to know the motivation. But I think it's pretty amazing. The guy's definitely built from different stuff than most people. No,
you're right. You're right. Look, Tom Brady has been the golden boy for quite a while now. 6 rings tells you all you need to know. And then they say, well, no one's even saying maybe this will be his last year. I mean, they're talking about him playing until he's 45.
Yeah, yep. And I don't think any of us can doubt him at this point.
No, I don't doubt him to this point any more than I doubt that Tiger Woods is going to come back and play golf again.
Right.
It's just, there's certain athletes that you expect certain things and you're not disappointed when they achieve those things. But look, the one thing I've learned being around sports is that if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're probably right. And I think that's the message that Robert Saleh may want to make to the Jets, to instill this confidence instead of this downtrodden feeling that's followed this organization for about 10 years.
Yeah, that's definitely one of his challenges, Howard. He's got the getting them out of woe is me when things go bad. Here we go again kind of mentality. It's been tough because it's been a long time since they tasted success, and really no one on the Jets right now has ever tasted success with the Jets. The last bit of success was 2015 when they won 10 games, and no one's left from that team. So, yeah, he has a challenge in that regard of changing the mentality of the organization.
Well, plus, look at the history. 5 quarterbacks have been drafted in the last 10 years? That's a recipe for disaster. And the coaching changes, which you've done well documented. I look at Robert Saleh. What little I know of Robert Saleh, he's a firebrand kind of a guy, and I think the teams become a mirror image of what their coach is.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Like I said, I want to see how he is when the season starts. But he definitely seems to have the right message, and I do like his energy, and I think he's breathed life into the organization right now.
What is left for Joe Douglas to do? What can he do?
I'd like to see him add a veteran quarterback to back up Zach Wilson. I think it's crazy right now. They don't have a quarterback on the roster who's ever taken a snap in an NFL game. To me, that's you're asking for trouble. If something happens to Zach Wilson, you're falling off the cliff, basically. So I think if he can find a veteran quarterback to bring in, if Chicago is willing to trade Nick Foles, I would seriously think about flipping a late-round pick for Nick Foles and just getting someone in here to back up Zach Wilson.
One name that surfaced a couple of months ago that San Francisco, a player at San Francisco, would be somebody the Jets would want for his veteran leadership, and that was Richard Sherman. I think that discussion is over.
Yeah, I actually think it was over before what happened recently. They made it pretty clear they were not doing that. They feel like with their young cornerbacks, they want to give them a chance to play and just throw them out there. So, but yeah, I think what happened last week, if there was a little flicker of hope, that ended that hope.
Which is kind of, I think the Jets could have used that veteran leadership, but obviously there's so much negativity surrounding Richard Sherman, who once upon a time was one of the great defensive backs in the history of the game. If there's a surprise team this year, and I'm hearing discussions like everybody saying that Cincinnati is going to win the AFC North, and to that I go, wait a minute. I mean, Cincinnati hasn't won a division in over 30 years, and you got a team like the Baltimore Ravens that I still think is the best team in the division.
Yeah. I don't see Cincinnati being very good. I think they still have a long way to go before they're a contender, and that division is tough, like you said. I think the Ravens are the Ravens. The Steelers look like they're going to drop off a little bit, but I don't know. I never count out Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger, and Cleveland's a team that's on the rise.
Yep.
Right? I mean, they made a run last year, and I think everyone expects them to make a run again this year. So I don't see Cincinnati being that team.
No, I'm with you on Cleveland. I mean, they gave Kansas City all they wanted in the playoffs, and they took care of Pittsburgh handily. Baker Mayfield is the deal. He's the real deal. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, if I had to go with the team, Howard, that didn't make the playoffs last year, that I think could make a run this year, would be the Chargers. I thought with Justin Herbert was great. They've got some pieces on that defense. I think the Chargers are on the verge. Obviously, they've got a great team in their division, and that makes things tough with Kansas City there. But, if they can get in as a wild card, I could see them winning a game or two in the playoffs.
Appreciate your time as always, Brian. You stay safe. Now get ready to get back to work.
Thanks, Howard. Thanks for having me.
You got it, man.